Well, good morning, Andy. Thanks so much for joining us.
No problem, Jim.
I thought it'd be good to have this little session to be able to talk about what the recording process is like. The whole theme of this morning is being about creative differences, and you and I have known each other for about 7 years now, I think.
Yes, yeah, just over that.
And I remember when I first came, or when you first came on board, I thought, well, writing ads and writing copy shouldn't be too hard. I mean, I was a real estate agent for 13 years, and typically we would just throw the ad copy on together, whether we're putting it in the window or online or even doing an auction. I thought, oh, how hard can it be? I only have to do it for 30 seconds. How much to school I was taken by you. So thanks so much. So if we could talk a little bit about that. I mean, one of the commonly asked questions we get asked as frontline executives talking to a client is, why can't I just write my own script or voice my own ad? And what would you say to that?
Well, it's not a matter of can't, it's probably shouldn't. To be honest, like you said, if you came from a real estate background, you are used to, writing up blurbs about properties and that sort of thing. The main difference is in terms of writing, we are writing in a style which is meant to be read out loud, as opposed to if you're writing something for a post on Facebook or a newsletter to be emailed, those things are written to be read, and they aren't under the same time constraints as a radio message, for example. So that's the main difference there, and I guess why you should take advantage of our creative writing services is because our copywriter has been at it for 25 years, writing for radio and for TV as well as online. So to sum it up, writing a radio creative is different to writing a newsletter or a social media post, and so that's where we have these key skills.
Yeah, and that's great. Well, you did mention about voicing their own ads. I mean, I think it seemed to me that we went through a whole run of people commonly voicing their own ads and wanting them to come across in that way. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, there's a time and a place for it. When I worked in country radio, if you worked at a few country radio stations, every real estate agent and used car salesman wanted to voice their own ads. And I kind of understood that. They had that personality for it. I think even the local butcher got in on at one stage. And maybe if you are a well-known personality in the community, it can work for you. But if you don't, if you're not used to public speaking or you've never done it before, you can actually do a bit of a disservice to your business when you don't come across professionally. And I also do a lot of voiceover coaching, and so I can make people sound as good as they can be. But if you can't quite come across as being professional, it won't do you any favors.
Yeah, that's true. Also, we've had some pushback about having music behind the track. So people have got the comments going on or the conversation going on and talking to them about their product or service and driving to the website and such. But what is it so important about having the backing track, the music going on?
We like to do it as, I guess, our creative style in the station. We're a music station, so we aim to find the perfect music track to support the spoken word. But also, the way I think of it also is that, when you go to the movies, imagine now going to the movies and there not being any music at all. What it does is it actually adds to the performance. In this case, the voiceover performance. There is, again, a time and a place for what we call a cold voice ad where there's no music. Honestly, I hear those on 3AW a lot, and that's, again, a style of their radio station. They're a talk station, whereas we're a music station, and I'm always up for finding a good use for music or multiple pieces of music within a creative.
So what would you say is there some generic things that people should think about to really make their message stand out or pop in some way? What would you think they would be?
Mostly it's around having that one key idea that you want to get across to the audience, and letting us find that idea for you. Because once we have that key idea and we don't try and put too much information in there, then we can start inserting some creative elements, which also help the ad, as you say, or I should say the sponsorship message sort of pop out, adding that little something that grabs people's attention just a little bit more, and then delivering your really basic message.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you one of the strangest things, I guess, which is an irony with me, is that I really dislike watching ads. I dislike hearing some messages. My family knows that I absolutely, my finger hovers over the skip ads section as soon as it shows up on YouTube with a passion. And I actually have a lot of that to thank for you, because it's highlighted the things that I don't like. So now I particularly don't like where I see an ad that I believe has been dubbed, that's been done overseas, and they come here. And typically, if you watch a lot of television, it seems to me the standards have really dropped. That the ads themselves seem to be not in English first language and have just been dubbed with not even sometimes an Australian accent. That it's something I really find really quite. Now I find it so offensive, to be frank. It's not that we don't have the ability here. We in fact have some of the best in the world here. So why aren't they doing it? What do you think that's going on with that?
Well, the great thing is, I know you said you don't like ad breaks on TV. The great thing, of course, on 89.9 is we only play 2 sponsorship messages in a row. So unlike if you listen to, say, commercial radio or go overseas when you can, and their ad breaks will run for 5, 6, 7 minutes. Great thing is 60 seconds on 89.9. But also, we've got access to some great talent. In terms of voiceover, and even in talent in terms of the music we use, sound effects we have access to, and certainly copywriting and production where we've been doing this for over 25 years. So, and you're right, there is a lot more people involved in this creative space now, and a lot of people offering that kind of service at very low rates. And sometimes some people do decide, okay, I'm going to get my message made somewhere else. And of course, you're welcome to do that if you're not going to take advantage of our services, but just, really hold them to a high standard, like as we hold ourselves to a high standard. You definitely get what you pay for. And so you want to avoid that race to the bottom, buying the cheapest thing possible from Fiverr.com, for example.
Supermarket mentalities never necessarily work unless you are, in fact, a supermarket. And even they get proper ads put together, so that's not an issue. Can I talk a little bit about jingles then? What's the difference between what we would normally hear on radio with typically messages from station sponsors or anything else like that, and a jingle? What specifically makes up a jingle, and why is it so important?
Well, jingle, I'm personally not a huge fan of jingles, but jingle is basically a catchy song or tune that goes with your brand. And jingles, to get them done properly, are expensive, and I would only recommend them somewhat to someone who is wanting to promote themselves in the long term. You hear a lot of jingles that are around on radio or TV today. Some have been around for decades, which means their very big investment up front paid off. Because those things become the earworm where people hear them and they know straight away, what the message is about. So I'm very cautious in terms of jingles. We don't produce them. We can, if you're interested, point you in a couple of different directions. Because if you are looking at getting a jingle made, it's a very different process and not a quick process that you have done in a couple of days. It obviously involves writing musicians, some research about your business, the key words and your slogans and things like that. They, like I said, they can work, but it's something, if you are only going to be, say, on radio for a few months and they're not back for a couple of years, you certainly wouldn't invest in a jingle. Take that, $5,000-$10,000 and invest it into more airtime and get yourself heard on air more instead.
It makes total sense. Well, just thinking about the process itself, what sorts of things can people do to speed up the process? It does take some time before we've said yes, we want to go ahead, we want to have our message played. What happens from that point of instructing you? What can really speed that up?
I think probably on the business side of things, if you're part of a small or a medium-sized business, make sure you know who on your end is the decision maker in terms of signing off on a script or a final copy of a radio message. That's a good start. Also, I think making sure that you are responsive to when we start writing scripts. And the process does involve sometimes us writing a script, sending it to you, you coming back with maybe a couple of suggestions or some new information, and a bit of a rewriting and back and forth. If you can be really responsive during that process, things will actually move really quickly. And then once we actually get an approved final script, the process then is really quick when we get into recording and post-production for your spot as well.
And just thinking about with that, the people who do the messages that you, when you put the audio production together in that, what sort of numbers do you have in people you have the ability to draw upon to be able to voice those messages?
It's unlimited, really. Yeah. There's a handful of pools of voiceover people that we dip into. Literally, we have access to hundreds or thousands of people. I'm going to say I would narrow that down to a few hundred people that I would specifically draw on. But all trusted, reliable voices who can deliver as we expect from a script.
And when you say people you really trust, it's to make sure that they do resonate well with our audience. That's really more of what the key is, isn't it? It's not so much that they are bad or anything else like that. We've got to make sure that the message itself does resonate, and the station sponsor themselves does resonate with our audience.
So when I cast, because I do the casting for all of the sponsorships, I make sure I'm casting a voice that yes, resonates with the client, their brand, but also is matches up with our 89.9 the light or positive media brand as well. So it's actually going to not sound out of place on our stations. Yeah,
well, that's ideal. Well, thanks so much, Andy, and hope you guys have got a lot out of this morning. It's been a really good quick summation of what it's like, and creative is something that can absolutely make or break a campaign. And thanks so much for your time.
Thanks, Jim. Enjoy the rest of the morning.
Yes, thank you.
There we go.